Paranormal Buzz Radio is proud to present Girls vs. Ghost Media's Spooky Talk with Madison Smith from Madison Paranormal. You can find Spooky Talk every other Sunday, 6 Eastern, 5 Central, right here, live on Paranormal Buzz Radio. Be sure to join in the live interactive chat by going to Spreaker.com or downloading the Spreaker app for all devices.
The views and opinions expressed in this podcast by the host or the guest do not necessarily reflect the views of Paranormal Buzz Radio or its sponsors. Use of any material produced by Paranormal Buzz Radio without express written consent is strictly prohibited. For information on everything Paranormal Buzz Radio has to offer, visit our website, paranormalbuzzradio.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Listener discretion is advised.
Here's your host, Madison Smith.
Hi everyone, I'm Madison Smith, and I would like to welcome you all to Spooky Talk with Maddie. Tonight's guest is someone I got to investigate with a few times so far, and he is a super cool. We first met at the old YMCA, Dan Viner Furniture, in Rock Island, Illinois, and we had a great time together that night. So, with that said, I'd like to introduce everyone to Fred Scheidenbergei Jr. with Spirit Recon. Hey, Fred.
Hey, Maddie. I'm doing well. How are you?
Pretty good.
Good.
All right. So, shall we start the questions?
For sure. Go ahead. I'm ready for you.
All right. And also to all my listeners, if you have any questions, go ahead and post them in the comments, and I'll try to get to them by the end of the show. So, yeah. Let's begin. So, Fred, how long have you been investigating the paranormal?
Well, about 4 years is about a good solid answer. All
right.
And pretty hardcore though for those 4 years. I am involved in something almost daily, but it's something I go at pretty hard. So it's not a long time, but it's something I spent hours and hours and hours at.
Yeah. All right. So what got you into the paranormal field?
Well, actually, kind of a crazy story, but I had a family member that passed away, and it really had nothing to do with that. I was looking for an outlet. I was looking for something to do with my time that would keep me focused and not depressed on some of the things that I was feeling at the time. I watched Ghost Hunters and Paranormal State. From the beginning. I mean, I've delved into those shows, and even Ghost Adventures as it came out. I'm a pretty big Nick Groff fan. So I had the background, I had the interest, I had the desire, I had the questions. It just wasn't until I had a little bit more time and a little bit more focus and to put towards that passion.
Yeah. So, were your family okay with you investigating the paranormal, or did you have to hide it from them, really?
That's a good question. No, everybody around me supports everything. I think I'm one of those people. I try not to. I try to do and say things in a non-put-off way to anybody. I think that's it's about who you are and how you do things. So I think the interest, I think some people think I'm crazy. There's definitely non-believers out there that probably think that we're a little silly.
Yeah.
But I've had serious, I just try to tell them where we're coming from, where I'm coming from. I share the evidence. I share my feelings about it, share my passion, and then let them make those decisions for their own. But overall, the family's been very supportive.
All right. So what was your first place you've ever investigated, and What did you uncover investigating there?
Well, that could lead us into a long story. Are you ready for a long story already?
Yeah, I'm ready. All we need is like popcorn and all of that, you know.
That's right. We got some people in chat. There's Andrew in chat. Let me say hi to him. He's a friend of ours there, so trying to watch chat also. Let me get a little drink of water here. I had a friend.
Charla.
Charla's in there. Hey, Charla.
Yeah, and Matt.
Right.
And Andrew. And me. And Shay. And that's all I see so far.
I think so. So I told you I had the interest, and when the time came that I was going to actually start investigating or seeing what this paranormal investigation was about, I had a friend that had some equipment, and so I didn't have to go out and purchase anything right away. I was able to utilize some equipment and basically headed out to a local cemetery about 5 miles from myself. But it's a cemetery that stays open till about 9 or 10 o'clock. I could get in there at dark, and I could still get in there for about an hour without getting in any trouble. I don't trespass, and I don't go any place I'm not. I think you know that. We ask permission, and that we go about things the right way when we investigate.
Yeah.
I think it's very important that we do that so people
you don't get arrested.
Exactly. Well, and we don't want to... we don't want to bring, we just need to keep the, people got enough questions about what we're doing. I think, we need to just keep it as good a thing as we can. Jake and I, when we go to cemeteries, we clean up gravestones. We set up the stones. We replace flags that need replaced. So we take the time to do a little more than just investigating or taking pictures. And I think that's important. I think you have to reach out and let them know you're not just, no para-trespassing, as Charlotte says. So
yeah, I was about to say that. I'm like, oh my God, that's actually pretty funny.
It's important. It's important how the rest of the world sees what we're doing. I believe that in my heart. So, but anyway, back to the story. We had, all right. So I head out to the cemetery and, basically using digital recorder, spirit box, SB7 spirit box, and an EMF meter, a couple different EMF meters, the basic equipment, and just walking around a cemetery, seeing what kind of reactions I get. We could get when the equipment would then display some stuff, or we'd hear some stuff in the spirit box, and we'd stop and ask further questions. So I used this cemetery. I kept going back to the cemetery to practice, just trying to get to know the equipment. Really, I believe that is. I believe that's very important to know your equipment. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know that. I don't think it's necessarily what piece of equipment you use. It's how well you understand it and how well you can utilize it. So. Continued going back out to the cemetery, and I started receiving. The first thing I got was almost like an echo. I would get repeats of what I would say. I would stop at a gravesite and say a name on a gravestone, and then I was getting recordings of somebody else repeating that name back to me. Mm-hmm. I then spent some time debunking that, trying to recreate this echo, so to speak, and I couldn't do it. So continued to go back out to the cemetery and had a little bit more activity on the recorder. I would pick up somebody saying hello, just simple one-word things, but things that shouldn't have been there in an empty cemetery. And also I was recording this on both my video camera recorder and my digital recorder. I'm real serious about getting double or at least layers of evidence. Not that you can't trust a digital recorder, but if you can pick up the same thing on two recorders or a recorder and a video camera recorder, I believe that lends so much more credibility to what we're doing. Mm-hmm. So as I kept investigating this cemetery, I was picking up all this verbiage, all this stuff I could not explain. I marked it on a map. I actually had like a bullseye. I had a hot spot that I knew was pretty active. So I had to debunk. I had to debunk I would say a name and it would repeat it. I had to debunk that that echo I was getting. So I went out there one day. Nobody in the whole world knew I was going. There was nobody in the cemetery. And I started filming my camera and my digital recorder about a quarter mile away from the cemetery. I don't suggest people do this, but I started it. It's a rural place, but I started it in my vehicle. So you can see me approach the cemetery. You can see nobody's with me. You can see nobody's in the cemetery. I also did not say a word. I was totally quiet the whole time. I then walked my same path, the normal things I was doing in getting these words. I decided I wasn't going to speak. Maybe if I didn't speak and then we still got something, then what did you have? So that's where I received one of the craziest EVPs I ever will probably get. And basically, 4 steps from the cemetery plot that I was heading to, the voices say, talking to, and I'm not going to say the gentleman's name, but it said the name on the gravestone, talking to so-and-so again. I recorded that EVP on 2 different pieces of equipment. At that point, I mean, I was amazed. I knew right then that there was something watching me, something knew what I was doing, something intelligent. And I had it on camera, or on audio. It's still to this day one of the craziest things I've ever experienced. I then did further tests. I left digital recorder there all night and picked up sounds of what sounded like kids playing with guns, a little shooting. Actually, it's sounds like a toy gun, pew, pew, pew. And then the words "you killed me," like "oh, you killed me." Exactly. Again, I was blown away by this EVP. So I did some digging. I was actually pulled to, I told you I had a little hot spot there. I had a little bullseye. I had everything marked out where all these EVPs were being received. I simply started looking at the graves that were around, and I was pulled to a grave of a 15-year-old kid that had passed away. Obviously, if he's in the grave, and it's in the graveyard. But I was pulled to him the year he had passed away. I just felt like it might have been. It kind of looked like hard to explain, but the timing and his age was about the time the Nintendo started. I was trying to find something in that age group to match up with the sounds that I was hearing on these gun sounds. Unfortunately, he had passed away with his friend, and I was able to recover that information off the internet because there was a lawsuit and some other things, so it's still available on the internet. I made a few phone calls. I found out that these 2 boys actually passed away less than a half mile away. Pretty sad story. They had left after work or after school, had headed out to play like they always did. They fell into like a mud hole, quicksand thing, and then nobody was able to reach them until they passed, unfortunately. It was at that time that I mean, to me, that's the most amazing story I'm ever going to probably run into. Basically, I found out about the death of these 2 young boys from voices and sounds that were led, at the gravesite. A year later, to finish up the story, I was having a public event, and I was retelling the story. Again, I don't speak the names. This happened over 20 years ago, 10 years before I ever got to town, by the way, so I absolutely had no idea about any of this. I was telling the story in a public event, and a woman in the back started crying, and I stopped, and I said, "You all right?" And she said, "Yeah, I'm all right." And I continued, and she kept crying, and I couldn't take it anymore. And I said, "Hey, what's going on? She said, "It's all right." She said, "I'm just a little sad." She said, "I knew the boy's sister, and I do know for sure that they left home the very last after school that last day." And they were going out to play war. They took their toy guns with them, and I got goosebumps. I mean, to have that story validated in front of in a room full of people. I have hours and hours of work on that case, but again, so lucky to run into a case like that. But also, it ignited a passion that I can't. I just have so many more questions since then, as you probably know.
Yeah.
From your research, how that works. So that's kind of my first story. I mean, this all happened before I could even get inside a building or anything. This all happened in a cemetery, and I got so addicted to the information I would get. And then, I since go back and say hi every once in a while. I haven't investigated much lately there. I've been on to other things, but it's always a place. And that story can be found in depth on my on our Spirit Recon page too. I wrote a blog about it, so if somebody wants to read that a little further, they can go to Spirit Recon on Facebook and find our blog and go from there.
Mm-hmm. And do you have any other social medias that you would like to share?
Yeah, we are on Twitter, and although I'm not as active on Twitter. I usually just really the Facebook. Most of our videos are housed on YouTube, but if you go to Facebook and then you can go to that About section there on the side, you can find all our YouTubes, you can find our podcast, you can find everything, or just email me right off that Facebook, and we'll get right to you. I monitor that 24/7. So.
Yep. All right. So I know that we have both been to the old YMCA in Rock Island. What are your thoughts of that location?
Well, you probably know. I should ask you what's your thoughts. It's crazy, and I tell you what, I learn more about it every time we go. Is that how you feel about it? Does it turn up something new every time you kind of go over there and do your thing?
Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Because, I go there every single week, so...
Oh, that's true. Yeah. I was impressed right away. Like I said, there's a couple different areas in the building that I feel certain things. I'm drawn to the basement for some reason, for sure. Also, the top floor is to me, the top floor and the basement are really, to me, the activity or the energy. That's where I feel it the most. But we've got some awesome evidence. I've caught some visual stuff there, and our last investigation there, we were actually able. I was working with Broadway Paranormal, and I think it was Jessica. Yeah, Jessica helping her out. And we're using the Necrophonic app in. Is it the trunk room, or what is that room called?
The trunk room?
Trunk room.
Is that the one with the big chair in it?
Yeah.
Okay, yep, trunk room.
Trunk room. So, to be honest, I was pretty tired, and all this stuff's, again, on our Facebook, but I was kind of tired. The evening had kind of taken its toll on me, and it was very warm, and we were just kind of hanging in there doing the best we could. And I'm sitting there thinking, and I'm thinking, where am I going to go with the next question here as we were using the Necrophonic app? And I said, hey, what city are we actually in right now? Do you know where you're at? You know what city you're in? And there was no response, nothing that we could hear. So I take everything home, and I'm listening to it and playing it back. And right before I ask the question, Maddie, you can hear the voice clear as day in the Necrophonic app, Rock Island. Right before I asked the question.
Yep.
Now, I'd been sitting there thinking about it for a second because we were kind of at that slow stage of the evening. So,
yeah,
really, really cool. But yeah, I've been a part. There's people have had some physical things happen on the 4th floor, so I can't wait to get back. I love that building.
Same. That's basically my second home.
Right. How many times do you investigate? Well, you go there every week, you said.
Yeah, so probably over 100.
Wow. Yeah, you've been going there a couple years now, all the time?
Like 1 or 2 years.
Right.
So I basically know every single room by heart. So.
Well, good. Yeah. Well, hopefully, as you know, I was a backer. We were a backer on the Ghosts of War series, and we purchased that investigation with you. So hopefully, we'll get that scheduled someday soon coming up, and we'll get to spend a lot more time in there together.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, what is your favorite piece of equipment that you have?
You know, again, it goes back to, I think everybody has whatever works best for you. And a lot of the places here in Wilmington, you know, before these apps, the Necrophonic and Spiritus, which I believe in, but the SB7 Spirit Box, I know people are going to question it, but you know, it's something I use. I play the SB7 in reverse at full speed. I almost do it always that way. And we're talking about, guys, I investigate in Wilmington. Most of it's limestone buildings. A lot of it's in basements. We don't get radio stations in Wilmington anyway. We really don't. We get one FM station in Wilmington, I think, that comes in clear. But we have we're about 60 miles out of Chicago, so everything's just a mess. You get a lot of noise, but you don't get radio stations per se. It's hard to get an actual station. But the SB7, when used properly, a lot like other apps, but I'm able to actually real-time communicate with the spirits. And to me, that's the most intriguing and the most intense moments I've ever spent. I mean, it's cool to capture stuff and come home and catch it later on a digital recorder, but to actually ask a question, to get an answer, and then to be able to continue conversating, to me, it's beyond crazy. So I'd have to say the SB7 Spirit Box for as long as I've been doing things.
All right. So what is your favorite place to investigate?
Well, so many out there, but I love this town, Wilmington, Illinois. For people that don't know where that is, we're just 60 miles south of Chicago. We're one of the first stops on the old Mother Road, which is the old Route 66. It's got a great town history. The town, like 1838, I think, is when it was founded. So the whole town in itself is definitely my favorite. But we do have the Historical Society, which if anybody follows us knows that's where I do a lot of my, it's where I've spent my time. It's my second home. It was the town's first jail and fire department. It still has old limestone jail cells in the back, and now it's housing all the history of the town. So you've got all these pictures and portraits and deeds and titles and all the town's information that they've been able to save is now in this oldest building. So and I've had some great interactions. So that the Historical Society in Wilmington would have to be my number one.
All right. Now I have a question from the comments. Darren Buss. Question. Who is the person you're hoping to investigate with that you haven't yet?
Oh, that's a good question. That is a good question. There's so many. Darren, darn. Wow. So many. I got to investigate with Nick Groff and Johnny Hauser. Those were two big ones that I was glad to be a big Nick Groff fan. And Elizabeth Saint, so that was an awesome experience too. Yep. That's a good question, Darren. Give me a minute on that one.
All right. Shall we move on to the next question and you can come back?
Yeah, give me a second and I'll try to think. There's so many people. I love learning from everybody, and so it's hard. That's a hard question.
Yep. So I know your group is called Spirit Recon. Who else is part of your team, and how did you come up with the name of the group?
Another good question. Jake Rodriguez is my partner. He's out of Spring Valley, Illinois. We met at Ashmore Estates during the Nick Groff tour. Pretty random thing. He had come by himself. I had gone by myself. And, I was there just to be a fangirl of Nick Groff. And he was there to actually meet people and like-minded people. So it's kind of cool that, but I'm the one that reached out to him. I was kind of saw him standing over by himself, and I'd heard some of his story, and I kind of reached out to him. And I tell you what, once we got together the very first time and hung out, and it was like we were brothers. I mean, it's like we had been brothers in another life. So it's been great. We have had a couple mediums. Mary Marshall from Chicago worked with us a little bit last year. And and I've got a couple people here, Tiffany Lausch and Jen Orr, that's been helping me lately here in town. So we've had a couple people in town that help us out, but basically it's a 2-man gig with myself in the lead. Basically, the name came to me. I wanted to name everybody. I had a name already picked out that had paranormal on the end of it. I was talking to some other friends, and before I came, I didn't know how the town would take the name paranormal. I didn't want them to think there was, black magic. People look at that name a little weird sometimes. And actually, I was working for a guy and had a couple kids doing a little painting for a guy, and his kids were with us one day doing the cleaning of the apartment before we painted. And I said, "Hey, looking for a name? We're ghost hunters, and we're looking for a name." And I think they came up with Ghost Spirit Recon or something. Now I know they're gamers or something, so I don't know if it came off of that. And as soon as he said it, I knew that I didn't want it. It was a little long, but as soon as he said Ghost Spirit Recon, I was like, you know what? I bet Spirit Recon, I kind of like that. I really do like that. So I like it. It sticks out a little bit different. It doesn't, we were going to use Wilmington Paranormal. You just use the town name and the paranormal, and I think that's great. But I like having something a little different.
Yeah, that's good. All right. So I know, like myself, you have investigated with some pretty awesome people. Who have you liked investigating with the most so far, and why?
Boy, that in itself is a tough question, too. Wow. I really never thought about it. I'm just so, you know what? I love investigating, like I said, with everybody, just because I'm not sure we're ever going to be experienced enough to where we, obviously not going to know it all, but it's just so different. Sometimes I'll be in a place with Jake, and then we can bring in a female part of another part-timer from our crew and bring her in, and the reactions are different. So there's so many different stimuli when you're out on a ghost hunt or an investigation that I like to manipulate all that. I like to take people into the investigation, take them out of it, just to see what's going to happen. I just know that if you manipulate the surroundings, usually you can manipulate your responses and your evidence. You'll get different stuff. I think it goes back. I tell you what, if you're going to, I did meet Steve Gonzalez from Ghost Hunters. hung out with him a little bit. Didn't really get to investigate, but if somebody said, "Hey, Grant Wilson wants to investigate with you," go back to Darren's thing. If you're going to pick somebody off a TV, I'd probably say Grant Wilson. I'd love to hang out with him and investigate for the day, for sure. Charlotte's making fun of me because I'm fangirling.
Yeah. Classic Charla over here. All right. So, another question from Darren Buss. Question. Is there a place in Chicago that is very haunted? Question mark.
Darren, we're 60 miles out of Chicago, and I've got so much around this area that I've not had to go into Chicago, and do many investigations. I made it up to DeKalb, Illinois last week, and we investigated the Egyptian theater up there, which was pretty cool. I'd love to get up into the city and do some of that stuff. But Chicago's a little hard to access sometimes, parking and time and effort. The suburbs are a lot easier to maneuver.
Mm-hmm. All right. All right. So, what would you like to investigate in future? Like, the place that you would like to reach out and go to.
Wow, another cool question. Mm-hmm. I'm really looking forward. I've got to meet Dan Class. I know you know Dan, I think. I'd really like to get out and make it out to the Hinsdale house and check that out. I've heard a lot about it. I haven't made it out to the East Coast there, so that would be on my list. Also, Gettysburg. There's so many different places around the Gettysburg, and with all the history, the Gettysburg area is something that's really got me interested here lately. So, I'd say one of those two places right now if I had to pick. So,
all right.
Maybe Grant Wilson will go with me to the Hinsdale house, huh? And we can kill two birds in one stone.
All right. So, who would you consider the person who has mentored you the most since you started?
Mentored the most? Wow. Mm-hmm. Well, I tell you what, that probably goes to my friend Mary Marshall. And if you watch our page, I just went up and did some Bigfoot hunting with her up in Wisconsin a couple weeks ago also. Mary Marshall is someone that spent, half of her life in the paranormal. Not only the paranormal, but the cryptids, the UFOs. She's also a very, very intelligent, basically a skeptic. So she brings a lot to the table when it comes to debunking. Although she does have some abilities in the psychic medium area, she's really hard on herself with that information. She doesn't. I love the way she debunks things. I love how she searches the history. She's taught me about learning the culture and the time frame of what you're investigating to get better quality interaction with spirit. Not just going in, once you made contact, then putting a face and a name and a time period and dealing with making it more real it's a different way. She really opened up my eyes, and I'd say to this point she's been my biggest mentor, for sure. She's known, if you check her out on Facebook, it's the Paranormal MD, Mary Marshall. Mm-hmm. So very cool. Darren says he's from Wisconsin. Darren, we were up in the Kettle Moraine. I'm sure you've heard of the Kettle Moraine Forest. I can't really give a total location, but that's where we were at.
All right. So another question from Darren Buss. If you if you had a chance to build a device for your investigations, what would it be and why?
Wow. Darren, Buss, I should have known you'd have those great questions. Again, I think for me, the one-on-one, that real-time communication to me is what really seals the deal for me. Like I said, I've been investigating a lot of places. I've uncovered a lot of evidence, a lot of visual evidence, a lot of audio evidence. But when you're actually able to have a conversation and actually learn something, whether it be about yourself or the spirit or where you're at, I'm into the real-time communication. So I wish I was smart enough, Darren, to develop some of the stuff like Jay Prather and those guys develop, or Katie Stafford. I wish. I wish I could develop what they do. But to me, it's all about, that's what really makes it tick for me, is the real-time interaction. It's not only finding the spirits and trying to, I'm kind of past the point of trying to prove to everybody. That was really never my thing. I was out to prove it to myself anyway. But it's about building relationship with the spirit to me, and for that, communication's a key. So definitely communication device, Darren, of some sort.
All right. So when you're investigating, do you have a favorite snack food that you like to take with you or anything?
No, actually, my belly usually gets kind of nervous before an investigation. I try to eat beforehand so that I'm not hungry during. But I'm not much of I'm not much of a snacker during the investigation. But let me tell you this: as soon as it's over, good Lord, watch out. I'm either at the pizza joint or we're heading out for breakfast or something. I'm always starving after an investigation. So
I'm more like eat a couple Twizzlers,
Twizzlers candy?
Yeah. And then if they have like pizza or something, I'll be over there in a split second being like, you ain't freaking taking my cheese. Not today. So yeah.
Well, I'm not a big eater anyway, but I try to eat, like I said, I try to eat a little bit beforehand so I'm not hungry during. But I very rarely, I just drink water or whatever I'm drinking during, and then afterwards, like I said, you ought to see us. You ought to see me eat when the investigation's over. It's not pretty.
To be honest, I'm kind of scared to see you eat after investigation, so you have your thing, I have my thing, and
That's right.
You go eat over there, and I'm just gonna hide over here.
So let me ask you real quick, what's the place you want to investigate at the most, the worst right now? Just curious.
Well, does it have to be here, or can it be in Florida?
Be wherever. I'm just curious what's your most desired place right now? It's a hard question.
Yeah, I know what it's called. It's in Florida. It's called the Sister Mansions or something. There's 2 of them.
Okay.
I've seen investigations, and I'm just really fascinated by it. Same with the Hinsdale House. I really want to go there.
Right.
And also in a can't remember what TV show it was, but Dan Class was in it, and it was one of the hotels in the area of New York.
Oh, cool.
And I'd really like to go there too.
Cool. Yeah, there's so many places out there. It's hard to remember everyone. It is.
Yeah.
We are lucky. I think you realize how lucky you are with Dan Viner Furniture, and how lucky I am here with, a lot of shout out. I got to give a shout out to the business owners, Randy Skanetsky, Sam Medea, Tom Hayden, the owner of the Opera House here in town. The the people have welcomed me into the buildings here in Wilmington, and it's given me so much. I mean, who else can go in their town and pretty much investigate anytime, all night long, every day? I mean, I've got to spend so much time on the ground doing research, and it's made me a better investigator, and you let me tell a bigger story about the town and their hauntings.
Yep.
Yeah, maybe we can go to Hinsdale together.
Maybe.
Come on, Dan Class, if you're listening, or if you hear us later, hook us up, boy.
Trust me. I think I'm going to be going in a spring, so.
Cool.
Because we just got an RV, as you know.
I did not know.
Oh.
Nobody told me.
Well, the more you know.
The more you know.
We just need that sound effect of the more you know.
That's right. Well,
so,
cool. Well, that'll help you on your travels. Your dad's still going to take picture of you sleeping every time, or?
No, I'm going to be. I'm going to be hiding.
Hiding from your dad?
Yes. I'm going to put up a barrier. I'm going to be like, nope, can't see me sleeping. Nap time.
Well, I'm right here off of I-80, so if you guys come east at all, and if you don't knock on the door and pick me up, I'm going to be upset.
All right.
Just an FYI, Dave.
Yeah, Dad, if you're listening. All right. So, a question I have always asked is, what are your thoughts of younger investigators at the events and the investigations, really?
I think it's very interesting. I actually, the cemetery that we talked about at the beginning, I actually took a couple of my stepkids. They're actually probably your age at that time. They're a little older now, so yeah, they were probably about that. If not a little younger, but I have never. A lot of people talk about attachments, and I believe that you have to be careful. I believe you have to have a good heart. I believe that's what it's all about. That doesn't mean I don't know everything, obviously. So but I've never had a problem. And here's what I always said, Maddie. I always said to my family here that if I brought something home, or if I started having nightmares, or the kids were affected, or the girlfriend was affected, or whatever, anybody affected, that was it. That was totally it. I would stop on a dime, and thank the good Lord, or whatever it'd be the case. But we have never had an issue with anything like that. At all. So I think it's very interesting and pretty cool that you've got into it so young, and that these kids and that youngsters are starting to be more into it. I believe it. I mean, there's no sense hiding. I mean, the information's real. What I pass along to my family, the evidence I share with them is real. I'm not making things up. So, the truth is the truth. It's just like anything else. As long as they're mature enough to handle it, and you're not,
scared.
Yeah, well, we don't go and conjure. I think it is what it is. You don't go in and try to conjure up demonic entities, even if those, I'm sure they probably exist, but I've never run into anything. Out of all the investigators and all the people I've met in the last 2 or 3 years, nobody's ever ran into any demonic entities. So, I think that's a little false media, a little fake news, to be honest with you.
All right. So, Mitchell Kyle asks, when did you first... Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Michelle.
I'm great at pronouncing names, as you've seen. So, when did you first have your first experience with the spirit?
Well, we kind of discussed that. I think Michelle just joined us here a little late, I think. But... Michelle, that at the cemetery is what we'd the two boys that I ran across at the cemetery. And again, that's at the beginning of this show, or it can be found. I'll put my WordPress blog up later so you can all read that story in depth. But that would be my first experience. I see Shay's asked a question about provoking.
All right.
I jumped to that because I believe that's part of the reason I've done so well with this field. I think it's how you go about it. I think it's who you are and how you approach the spirit. Absolutely will do no provoking. I try to be just as honorable as I would and respectful as if I was meeting somebody in real life. And, that's to me, there's no difference. You're trying to build a relationship, and you have to use techniques like charisma and respect and stuff like that. That's the way you draw entities out. That's how you get to that's how you develop the relationships. I mean, I even apologize sometimes because we kind of get trapped in the, hey, could you do this? Hey, could you do that? And then I'll catch myself and say, hey, I'm sorry. I'm just getting carried away. You get excited, but, honestly, I just want to know what you're about. Can you just do what you want to do, or tell me what you want to say, or, and go from there. But, no, I think the respect for the other side, we don't know exactly what they're, but I think that's why I've done so well, and that's why I don't have any problems bringing stuff home. It's respect and honor, and you got to have it at all times.
Yep. All right. So another question from Darren Buss. If you come across a full-body apparition, who would you want it to be, and why?
Darren, I think, I'd love to see a full-bodied apparition. I'm not sure it matters to me who, but I do see that Charlotte's asking another question that leads right into things, so I'm going to jump to her and tie the two questions together. She's asking if we'd ever if I've ever met a spirit that actually touched my heart or had a sympathetic level to. Again, all this is on our website, on our Facebook, but one of the first, other than the two boys at the cemetery, the next entity that I was able to profile and that I know who it is and where they're at, and I can speak to them pretty much at any time, is Rose Kangley, a woman that her spirit resides at the Wilmington Historical Society. When Mary Marshall first came and visited us up here in Wilmington, she said that, hey, you have a woman that follows you around. She's here to help you. She's kind of enamored by you. She likes you. And I'd already had research that showed it was crazy, because I could do a whole investigation for an hour and get all men's spirit. I'd have all male voices. And then I'd simply say, is there a woman with me? And I'd get a woman's voice. I mean, like 90% of the time. And to me, that was crazy. I was like, somebody's following me or somebody's there. So then she comes in and verifies that. Well, through a long list of things that happened and going through evidence, we were able to profile and know that this is Agnes Rose Kangley, a Wilmington resident that passed away in the 80s. And her entity lives and hangs out here in Wilmington. And she helps me investigate. She's with me all the time. So what I did was, back in March, I decided that I would go in, instead of just doing our normal investigation, that I would go in to the Historical Society and I would ask the rest of the spirits to give Rose and myself a little space, and I would try to have one-on-one contact multiple times. I went in there 3 times in a row, 3 different nights, and have not necessarily intimate contact, but personal one-on-one contact with one spirit. That way we weren't, I think this as investigators, we get some information, but then it's gone, right? You get a hit on something, or you get some voices, So trying to keep their attention, that's big for me, is trying to keep the attention of the spirit. And I knew I had Rose's attention, and I thought, man, how can we do this? And, I started the Rose Kangley sessions. That's what they're labeled on our Facebook and our YouTube page. And again, it's all available there. The very first night I went in was her birthday. And I actually took a cupcake in and a card and a candle, and I lit it, and I sang happy birthday. I would love to see Rose Kangley. I would love to know that I'm either holding her hand, or I'd love to see her and give her a hug. We have such a close bond. I sometimes just walk by the building on my walk and stick my head up to the glass and peer in and say hi to her. I can't explain to you how it's felt to actually develop a relationship with someone that's passed. But I do know that I have, and I do know that it's possible, and it's really one of the coolest things. So yeah, if I could see Rose, that would be the one that I'd want to see.
Yeah. That's nice. All right. So, before you go to an investigation, is there any special thing you do to get ready?
Not really. I try to, like I said earlier, I try to eat. I try to get enough rest, because I think you need to go in. I mean, just like you do with your softball, I think you got to go in as focused and as physically and mentally ready as you can. Yeah. Nothing worse than getting into an hour into a investigation and then falling flat on your face, being tired or emotionally just a wreck. So I just try to do the right things to go in, and then go from there. And I try to do a little grounding session when I leave, but after I eat, right? Or before I eat.
Yeah.
But no, I believe it's in your heart, and I believe that's why I think, I believe that people with a good heart and a solid, strong mind, that's why they make better, paranormal investigators. I believe the spirit can see that.
Mm-hmm. All right. So what's your bucket list of places that you'd like to investigate?
Well, I do want to go out and investigate the Villisca Axe murder house with Johnny Hauser, so I definitely want to do that. There's really so many. But again, I like the big places. I've been to Malvern Manor, and I'm going back again. I want to go to Hinsdale House. I want to go to Waverly Hills. I'd like to go to... there's all kinds of places. I mean, my gosh, they're all over the place. But I tell you what, I like to go do just like this. So the Egyptian theater that we just did in DeKalb, for example, beautiful place. I love the history. I love the people I was with. However, the situation didn't lend itself to a good environment for investigating. There was multiple groups. The sound carries in there. The place is so shiny that every time you snap a picture, you get a lens flare off of something. It's so hard sometimes in these buildings to get that evidence and to create that relationship. So to me, some of these smaller buildings that I've been able to do here in Wilmington, these just a dark, cold basement may seem weird, but it's perfectly pitch dark. It's perfectly quiet. So that I know when I get those spirit box, when I get something on video or when that spirit box talks to me, I know the spirit is talking to me. So it allows me to do, I'm a researcher, guys. I mean, I love the research. I want to, I go through hours and hours and hours of video and audio just to find that one little thing. And then I try to debunk it from there. So, I'm not trying to find the coolest evidence. I just love getting the evidence. I love the research. So I'm just not that big. I love the big places. I love going and meeting the people. That's the why I go to the bigger places, to hang with friends and learn from them. But because this community is so cool, as you're finding out.
Mm-hmm. All right. So I know that you're going through some health issues. If anyone would like to help out with a donation towards your doctor bills, where can they donate?
Yeah. It is also on our Facebook page, and I'll share that again here. But you can scroll down my personal profile or my it's a Facebook fundraiser started by my good friend Ashley Storm out of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. She's with Profoundly Paranormal. And her and Jake, my partner, there's just people out there that wanted to donate. I need the love and the prayers, y'all. That's what I need, the good vibes. But there's people that wanted to donate financially. That's the way they wanted to support me. So we did set up a Facebook fundraiser so that so folks could do that if they want. So, yeah, check the Facebook, and all these links I'll update to right after the show. So find Spirit Recon on Facebook, like us, follow us, and I'm right there, guys. You can text me any question. I'll show you any link I got from there.
All right. Now, Charla asks, what's your favorite music to listen to on the way to investigation?
Whatever clears my mind, Charla. Sometimes I have an intent to listen to music, but then I just go all quiet. I've done this more as I've gotten older. Maybe I've just had too much noise in my life, but sometimes I'll just take 10, 20-minute drive in total silence so the brain can get going and relaxed. But Jake and I are rock and rollers. He's a little bit more metal than I am, but yeah, some good old rock and roll to get us in the mood. So get that blood pumping. Oh, Charlotte's got the Facebook page up there. Thank you, Charlotte.
Thank you, Charla. All right. So, if you would give any piece of advice to a new investigator, what would it be?
Well, I think I'm learning. That's a good question, and that's a good one here. We talked about equipment that I like to use, and I do love the SB7 Spirit Box and your digital recorder. I think that's about all you really need, and maybe a good camera, video camera. But I think the biggest thing that I didn't do at the beginning that I do now is get in touch with myself more and listen to my own body language. I now know by spending so much time in the field that I can feel certain things on my skin. Things will make my hair stand up. I can feel different things. I can hear different things without any equipment. So I think the biggest thing is just to learn yourself first and make sure you're ready for the investigation physically and mentally, and then go in and be in touch with yourself. Be in touch with every little thing, every little twinge you have, anxiety, whether you feel like you're being, whether you can breathe or not. Some people feel it all in a different way. So that's something I do a lot more of now that I did not do in the beginning, where I would go in and crutch right on the equipment. And that was just being a little new to the whole gig. So really got to trust yourself. And the more you tune yourself in, I'm sure you're learning this too, the more you tune yourself in, if you have any abilities at all, they will start to shine. They will come out. Practice does make perfect, or darn near.
Now, practice makes permanent.
Permanent?
Yes. Just like permanent marker.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, you know what's next?
What's that?
Rapid Fire with Matty-O, as my dad wrote it.
Oh, my.
Matty-O.
Matty-O?
Matty-O.
Rapid Fire. How's this work?
All right. So, basically, you just want to answer the question as fast as you can and get through them.
Okay.
And I'm going to be setting a timer, so hold on.
Wow.
Clock. Yeah. Stopwatch. Yes. All right. Tell me when you're ready. Yep. Water.
All right.
Yep.
I'm ready.
Okay, in 3, 2. Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Wars.
Thanks. Ghost Hunter or Ghost Investigator?
Ghost Investigator.
Mm-hmm. Soda or pop?
Soda.
Winter or summer?
Summer.
Pie or cake?
Pie.
Xbox or PlayStation?
PlayStation.
DC or Marvel?
Marvel.
Alright. Pizza or tacos?
Pizza.
Residential or commercial investigations?
Commercial.
Creamy or chunky peanut butter?
Creamy.
Late nights or early mornings?
Late nights.
Horror or adventure movies?
Adventure.
Favorite type of ice cream?
Butter pecan.
Alright. Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Twizzlers or Starburst?
Twizzlers.
Are there human ghosts underwater?
Sure.
Real bacon or the fake stuff?
Come on now.
Turkey bacon.
Come on now. Real bacon.
Alright. You got 1 minute, 29 seconds, and 65 milliseconds.
Those are great. That's great.
Yeah.
Made me laugh, Maddie. Thank you.
I know. No problem. Alright. Well, friend, I'm starting to see the Shadow Man rounding the corner, telling me that our time is almost over. I'd really like to thank Fred for taking time out of his busy schedule to come on and chat in with myself and my listeners here on Spoopy Talk. So, you have a great night.
Thank you, Maddie.
Now, for all my listeners out there, I'd really like to say thank you for being with me tonight. Next show will be Stephanie and Eric with the Savannah Experiment, September 8th. I'm slurring. I'm like, blah, blah, blah. All right. Whew. Make sure if you're not following me, give me a follow at Madison Paranormal Investigation on Facebook and Maddie_paranormal_investigation on Instagram. So for tonight, peace, love, and happiness. And most of all, be spoopy, everyone.